There are three moods in Latin. There's the indicative mood, in which you tell about real events. Right? I call this the storytelling mood. And then there's the subjunctive mood. The subjunctive mood refers to the ideas of actions not yet taken place in the real world, so they're sort of actions within the mind. And then there's the imperative mood, and this is the mood you use when you want to give a command. And in essence, I like to think of this as a little bit magical in that I say it and you do it. Therefore, it's sort of making the action take place. There are, in essence, when we're talking about the imperative, the main ones we're going to use are going to be second person. We're going to give commands to you, the person you're talking to, and we can either give them in the singular or the plural. There are also future, we're going to deal only with present imperatives, but there are such a thing as future imperatives, and there are third-person imperatives. We are not going to worry about those in this lesson. If you are interested, I could point you to Allen and Greeno's discussion on future imperatives and third-person imperatives. Here we're just going to deal with the second-person, singular and plural, present commands. The first, most obvious one is you want to give a command in the active voice. You want to tell somebody to do something. And so to form the singular, we're just going to use the present stem. So from woko, wokare, we just use woka, call. And even though these are second persons, you wouldn't say you call. Right? When you give command, you just use the verb. So call. Or wale, be well. And wale is actually an important one to use because this is also how you say, in essence, this is how we would say goodbye. Another common imperative, another common command is sole. And this is equal to our essentially hello. This is a greeting. So wale, from the infinitive volere. So we just knock off the re and we get our stem, which is also our present active imperative. Age, do it, come on. Age, from agere. Incipe, begin. Age is a very common general imperative. It often introduces another imperative. So I could say, age kure. Come on, run. Age kure. Come on, run. Incipe, begin. Audi, listen. From audire. So we took our infinitive, knocked off the re, and we're left with the imperative. So there's the present active imperative, singular. To make it plural, we're just going to add a te to the singular. So woka becomes wokate. And again, we're going to just translate this with the simple verb, call. We don't, again, use the pronouns when we're giving imperatives, when we're giving commands. Walete, be well. Goodbye to the lot of you. Now, the third conjugation, watch here. What was a stem here, we're going to change that e to an I and then add the te. So agite, come on, you guys. Or incipite, begin. So watch these third conjugations. The I is going to shift. The e will shift to an I. Otherwise, it's identical in formation. And audite, listen. But when you're talking to a group of people, so you can identify them with te added onto the stem. And there are some irregulars, as you'd expect. E or ite, go. Duke and ducite from duco. So here we're not going to use duke, as you'd expect. Lead, it's just the simple monosyllabic. Duke, lead, and ducite, where the I comes back in. So the plural here is regular, the singular is irregular. Fac or facite, from facio. Do or make. Again, monosyllabic in the singular, regular in the plural. Say, tell. Deek, from deco. Monosyllabic in the singular, regular in the plural. And then from pharaoh to carry, fair, monosyllabic. We have a nice pattern here. Duke, deek, fak, fair. And then ferte, though, is also irregular, plural. It's missing that I. So if you follow the pattern dukete, fakete, dikete, you'd expect ferite, but it is irregular here. So keep that in mind about ferte, the plural, irregular imperative. So we had actives, we want passives now. Passives are much even easier to form than the actives. The singular is the present passive singular person, second passive second present passive second person singular indicative with an re ending. So pretend you're just forming the second person passive, and instead of using the ris ending, use the re ending. And context will help you. Oftentimes with imperatives you're going to get a vocative, which is covered in another lesson. That you address somebody and you tell them, wokare, be called, habere, be held, agere, be done, incipere, be begun, audire, be heard. So these are identical to the present passive second person singular indicatives. And the plural is identical to the present passive second person plural indicative. So wokamini, be called, habemini, be held, agimini, be done, incipimini, be begun, audimini, be heard. So both of these forms equal the indicatives. This one with the re ending, they're equal to the indicative, but you'll oftentimes then see somebody addressed. Marcus, be heard, audire. Now we can have negative imperatives. You can tell somebody to do something, you can also tell them not to do something. And with this we're not just going to add known to the imperative. Right? You cannot do that. Instead, for the singular, we're going to take the imperative of noli, and we're going to add a complementary infinitive. So in the singular, noli amare, don't love. Or the passive, noli amari, don't be loved. So the active and passive is found in the infinitive. Noli will not change. It's always going to be this form. So noli amare, noli amari. Don't have, noli habere, don't be had. Noli agere, noli agi. Noli audire, noli audiri. Don't be heard, don't hear, don't be heard. And in the plural, instead of noli, singular, we're going to change that imperative to nolite. So, nolite amare, don't you, plural people, love. Or nolite amari, don't be loved. Nolite audire, nolite audiri. So the negative imperative is very different from the positive imperative. We're going to use a form of nolo or nolite plus the infinitive. Another way to do this, so that's one way to tell someone not to do something. The second way would be to use a prohibition, and this is a subjunctive clause. So we're going to use ne plus the present or perfect subjunctive. These will translate identically. So whether the Latin author uses the present subjunctive or the perfect subjunctive, they're going to mean the same thing to an English speaker. So ne ames, don't love, is the same as ne amaveris, don't love. So here is the perfect subjunctive, ne amaveris, ne ames, don't love. Ne habeatis, present subjunctive, don't hold. Or habueritis, right? Here's the perfect subjunctive, ne habueritis, don't have. Or the same thing would work with the passive, ne capiamini, present passive subjunctive. Don't be seized. Or we could use the perfect. Ne capticitis. Don't be seized. Don't be captured. Perfect subjunctive. Remember, the perfect subjunctive in the passive needs two parts. So those are the imperatives. The singular is going to be the stem, or the stem plus te for the plural. The passive is going to look like the passive indicative. And for the negatives, we're going to use noli or nolite plus the infinitive, or ne plus the subjunctive.